You useless daughter-in-law, you're so slow, what a waste. You should be working here all day. Beatrice's sharp voice pierced the air as she glared at me from across the kitchen. I lowered my head, silently scrubbing the dishes, fighting back the familiar sting of unshed tears. No matter how hard I worked, it was never enough for her. One thought kept running through my mind: I just want to be free. Just then, Nicholas, my brother-in-law, arrived late and quietly approached me. "Are you okay? Do you need any help?" he asked, concern in his voice. I forced a small, weary smile. "This is what I deal with every single day," I replied. His face darkened with anger at my words, and without another word, he walked away. "My name is Elizabeth, and I'm 30 years old. I married Arthur last year and work an office job handling clerical tasks. My father-in-law, Charles, was once a high-ranking executive at a major trading company, now retired and financially comfortable. He gifted us the house we live in. He and Beatrice live next door." At first, my mother-in-law only asked for small favors, but over time, her demands grew. "You finish work at 5 o'clock, right? Have dinner ready by 6 o'clock, she'd say. Or, "You're free on Sundays, aren't you? Change the curtains and clean the air conditioner." Eventually, every evening and weekend was spent catering to her. My time was no longer my own. Charles, though authoritative, never questioned Beatrice's behavior. Arthur was no different. Even though we both worked, he firmly believed household chores were solely my responsibility. He never lifted a finger to help. Whenever we planned a weekend together, his mother would call, and everything else would be cast aside. Pleasing her always came first. One such weekend, Arthur went golfing with Charles while Beatrice instructed me to replace the curtains in their house. Balancing on a ladder, I was carefully switching out the drapes when a familiar voice spoke behind me. "Elizabeth, it's been a while," Nicholas said. Arthur's younger brother, Nicholas, remained unmarried and ran a small company, living far away. He rarely visited. I was nearby and thought I'd stop in. "Need help with the curtains? By the way, where is everyone?" I forced a polite smile. "It's fine, I'm almost done. Your mom's at the salon. Arthur and your dad went golfing." Nicholas sighed. "I see, I'm sorry, thanks for taking care of everything." His expression darkened, as if he wanted to say more, but being family, what was the point in complaining? He lingered in silence for a moment, watching as I finished my task. Then, without another word, he left. Shortly after, Beatrice returned, beaming about her fresh hairstyle. When I told her I'd finished the chores and was heading home, she grabbed my sleeve. "Where do you think you're going? What about dinner?" Startled, I hesitated. "Mother, I have plans on my days off, so if you could." She cut me off, her face contorting in disbelief. "What kind of attitude is that? Have you forgotten your place?" A chill ran down my spine at the venom in her voice. "We provide you with this lifestyle, you married into wealth, so be grateful and serve." I was too stunned to respond. Then she delivered her final blow. "If your job is so important, quit by tomorrow, otherwise, Arthur will divorce you." With that, she left me standing in silence. That night, it dawned on me, this family would never stop taking from me. The next morning, my phone rang. It was Beatrice. "Have you quit yet?" I hadn't. "If you don't resign by tomorrow, don't bother coming back here." Feeling powerless, I handed in my resignation, effective at the end of the month. Days later, Arthur casually handed me a slip of paper. "We're throwing Mom's 60th birthday party next Saturday. She told me to give you this." I unfolded the paper. It wasn't an invitation, it was a detailed to-do list. Guest list, addresses, invitations, menu, decorations, event schedule. Stunned, I looked up. "You expect me to handle all of this on top of leaving my job?" Arthur's response was indifferent. "Who else would do it? You're the wife. It's your duty. Don't complain. Be grateful we give you a home. Make sure everything is perfect." At the bottom of the list, Beatrice had written a final demand: a surprise gift must be prepared as well. I swallowed my frustration. I had no choice. Juggling my remaining work responsibilities, I spent every spare moment preparing for the grand event. On the day of the party, I was up before dawn, ensuring every detail was flawless. Beatrice, glowing with satisfaction, welcomed guests into the lavishly decorated living room. As everyone gathered around the table, someone pointed out a missing plate. Beatrice's face darkened immediately. She stormed into the kitchen, seething. "What do you think you're doing?" she hissed. "Can't you even count properly?" I glanced at the table and realized a neighbor, who originally declined the invitation, had shown up unexpectedly. "I'm sorry, I didn't know, I'll grab an extra plate right now." Before I could move, her nails dug into my arm. "I don't want your excuses," she spat, her voice low and trembling with fury. "You've ruined everything, you are absolutely useless." I bit my lip, forcing back tears, and hurried to fetch the missing plate. The guests drank and chatted while Arthur, already flushed with alcohol, laughed loudly. He looked so pleased with himself, but the sight of him made my stomach turn. As I retreated to the kitchen, Beatrice's voice rang out. "Stay in the kitchen all day, I don't want to see your face." She turned back to her guests with a dramatic sigh. "Forgive my daughter-in-law," she announced loudly. "She's terribly clumsy, but we make do." As laughter rippled through the room, I stood in the corner of the kitchen, swallowing my tears. There was no time to cry, more drinks were needed, more dishes had to be washed. Then, the front door swung open. Nicholas had finally arrived. "Sorry, I'm late," he said. And for the first time that evening, I felt a tiny flicker of hope. From the other room, I heard Beatrice's voice change into a warm, welcoming tone. "Nicholas, we've been waiting for you. Come in and make yourself comfortable." I barely had time to acknowledge his arrival. Between washing dishes, preparing snacks, and managing the cake, I was completely overwhelmed. After adjusting the dessert tray, I turned to tackle the towering pile of dirty dishes when Nicholas suddenly appeared beside me. "Elizabeth, have you finished the main courses? Do you need any help?" he asked. His kindness caught me off guard, and I felt my eyes sting with unshed tears. He had asked me before, in a quiet moment, if I was doing okay. Now, I struggled to keep my emotions in check and simply continued washing the dishes in silence. Nicholas leaned in slightly, observing me. "Are you really okay handling all of this by yourself? Let me at least take care of the dishes, you must be exhausted." At his gentle words, the tears I had been holding back finally spilled over. My voice trembled as I admitted, "This is just my reality, this is what every day looks like for me." I wiped my cheeks, but the tears wouldn't stop. Nicholas repeated my words, almost in disbelief. "Your everyday life?" Then he asked, "Has Mom always treated you this badly?" I met his gaze and nodded. "So that's why you were changing the curtains alone that day?" Another nod. "And Arthur, does he know?" This time, I nodded firmly. My husband knew, he had always known, but in his eyes, housework and family obligations were solely a woman's duty. He never tried to help, never asked if I was okay. I had long stopped hoping he ever would. Nicholas's expression darkened, his jaw clenched as a deep, angry flush spread across his face. Without warning, he stormed out of the kitchen. Alarmed, I quickly dried my hands and rushed after him, uncertain of what he was about to do. The living room was filled with laughter, conversation, and clinking glasses when Nicholas suddenly reappeared, his expression tense. Beatrice turned to him with a sugary sweet voice. "Nicholas, where did you run off to? You're always so busy with work. Come, sit down." But instead of joining the festivities, he cut straight to the point. "Mom, that's enough. Apologize to Elizabeth, right now." The room fell silent. Beatrice's smile faltered, replaced by a bewildered frown. "What are you talking about? Why should I?" Nicholas wasn't backing down. "Did you make Elizabeth handle all the cooking and cleanup for this party? Is that how it always is around here?" Beatrice's gaze flickered toward me before settling into an icy stare. My entire body tensed. "Well," she said coolly, "isn't that how things are supposed to be? In most families, the daughter-in-law takes care of household tasks. Elizabeth understands that, don't you?" She glanced around, as if expecting the guests to agree. For the first time in a long while, I found my voice. Despite my trembling hands, I stood my ground. "I have no intention of being a servant to this family. I already quit my job because you demanded it, but if this is how I'm going to be treated, I will leave." Beatrice let out a mocking snort, while Arthur sat quietly in the corner, his face dark with discomfort. Yet, as always, he said nothing. "Leave?" Beatrice scoffed. "And do what? You have no skills, no job, where would you even go?" Before I could respond, Nicholas erupted. "So this is what you do? You bully every woman who marries into this family? Do you even realize this is exactly how you drove my wife away?" A collective gasp rippled through the guests. Someone blurted out, "Nicholas, you were married?" He looked away briefly before nodding. "I was. It lasted only 6 months. It ended suddenly. And it was entirely Mom's fault. Beatrice's expression finally wavered. Nicholas took a deep breath and continued, his voice strained with emotion. My wife asked for a divorce out of nowhere. She wouldn't explain why, just apologized over and over, crying as she begged to end things. I didn't understand it at the time, but later, I found out the truth. Mom had been tormenting her, forcing her to do endless chores, belittling her behind my back, and threatening her into silence. I blame myself for not seeing it sooner, for not protecting her. His voice grew colder. Mom, you haven't changed at all. You humiliate and control every woman who enters this family. Is it some kind of twisted satisfaction for you? That's beyond cruel. Beatrice remained frozen in place, her face paling under the weight of his words. The guests stared at her with judgmental eyes. Then Nicholas turned to Arthur. And you, Arthur, how could you let this happen? You saw everything, didn't you? Arthur shrank into his seat, avoiding eye contact. Just then, Beatrice let out a loud, dramatic wail. Why is everyone blaming me? It's not all my fault. Your father is just as responsible. The room shifted its focus to Charles, who looked utterly stunned. Beatrice's voice turned bitter. He made me work constantly, he belittled me too, never letting me rest. I was a victim, just like Elizabeth. Nicholas's gaze hardened. So because you suffered, you think it's fair to make someone else suffer just as much? That justifies everything? Beatrice had no response. Nicholas exhaled sharply and turned to me. Elizabeth, what do you want to do? I took a deep breath, considering my answer. Could I stay here, hoping things would change? With no job and no peace, would life with Arthur ever be different? Looking at Beatrice's stunned silence, Charles's avoidance, and Arthur's cowardice, my answer became clear. I turned to Beatrice and met her gaze. Mother, I'm giving you exactly what you wanted all along. I'm leaving Arthur. Think of it as your special birthday present. I picked up my belongings. I have no reason to stay in this family any longer. I hope you take this as an opportunity to reflect on your actions. Nicholas placed a supportive hand on my back as I walked out. Behind us, Beatrice's sobs filled the air. The guests stared at Arthur and Charles, waiting for them to speak, but they never did. They just sat there, their eyes fixed on the floor. The next day, I packed the rest of my belongings and left Arthur's house for good. Arthur tried to stop me, but it was too late. I no longer felt anything for him. He had stood by and watched his mother mistreat me for too long. With finality, I told him we were done. In the weeks that followed, I heard rumors that Charles and Beatrice barely spoke anymore. Their once perfect household had crumbled, but it no longer had anything to do with me. Nicholas, seeing my situation, offered me a job assisting with administrative work at his company. You made the right choice, he said one afternoon, handing me a cup of coffee, and, thanks for everything you've done. I smiled as I took the cup. Thank you. As I prepared to leave, I mentioned, I should get going, need to do some grocery shopping and laundry. Nicholas shrugged lightly. I handle all that myself. Living alone has its lonely moments, but I manage. Then, after a brief pause, he glanced at me with a small, almost shy smile. So, are you free this weekend? Want to grab dinner together? My heart skipped a beat. Warmth spread through me, not just from his words, but from the new sense of freedom I had reclaimed. Gathering my courage, I met his gaze and nodded. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Stay tuned.